أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا بكم، كل عام وأنتم بخير. ما شاء الله تبارك الله. اليوم 25 من ربيع الأول 1447 والموافق يوم الخميس. الحمد لله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته to our beautiful mothers and our parents and our great ancestors of this land and of the soul tribes, our spouses and our colleagues, our soul family and children, and our ummah of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam, and all the Anbiya until we find the great advent of the age of Muhammad alayhi wa alihi wasallam. It is the 25th of Rabi' al-Awwal 1447. It is the 5th cycle. En as vanaand khatat aanleer, en dan gaan ons 'n bietjie khatat melk drink met Allah se kudrat inshallah in Grassy Park. Mashallah. We inculcate this into the lives of the next generations that have migrated to the digital format of lifestyles where most of our children are presently living, and they will be there for the next 100 years, mashallah. It is important to realize that which you and I are witnessing today in our lives for the last 20 years, and it was the migration. And since 2020, 1441, it was the hijrah. Okay? This is how civilizations and realities collapses and new formats of realities are birthed, mashallah. Every coin has two sides. Every day has a night. Every end has a beginning. What is necessary for us as the outgoing generation is to understand at least attempt to understand something about the Quran. Okay? Most of our parents has passed on with not grasping the essence and the heart of this book that Allah Ta'ala has bestowed on each and every human soul in this earth. There's no God, there's no creator that will send the child into earth of blosse voete. Okay. No mother will send her child unaccompanied into a dark world, into a dark reality, into a new adventure, except that she gives him sy padkos. Okay. This Allah has guaranteed always throughout all of times and all of civilizations. Allah has promised us all the time, and there's going to be a dark side to it, and there's going to be a light side to it. There's going to be a time where there is going to be bumpy rides. Okay, there's going to be scarcity. There's going to be a bietjie opdraans, gaan 'n bietjie ophevel. Okay, hang maar aan daarso. Hou maar bietjie styf vas. Leer die lessons. Verstaan vir my. Luister for yourself, because I'd say luister for yourself. You're going to hear the voice. You're going to hear the sounds. You're going to hear that whispers that comes out between the lips. Okay. This is what we, as a outgoing civilization that was holders of the physical reality, where we saw life from the dark spectrum and the night period, the layl, okay, where we followed, but we did not understand because we did not understand the Quran. Yani, literally, we didn't want to exert yani, ourselves to really contact the only voice, the only sound that Allah has protected in this earthly expedition. Okay? When we were young guys, when we were children in the city, gaan ons na die Khalifas toe. Ons was 3 jaar oud, 2 jaar oud, whatever die case gewees het, ja nie. Foto's na die Christenskool gegaan het hulle seker gemaak hulle stuur vir Islamse skool toe. And we were actually very proud. We were like looking forward like om die surah sakkie te gaan as ons moet nou groot. And because it was informal, yani ek gaan na die Khalifa Muna was ons Khalifa in Fenton Road, and she welcomes you. Baie arme Khalifa, baie, I wouldn't say arm, so it was rijk, mashallah. Rijk in the sense van, Allah gave her yani, the passport for me today to make mention of her. I didn't know her before I came into earth, but today, after having met and being empowered by her yani, majestic touches and wisdoms, sy het vir ons die surah geleer, die groot surah geleer, die klein surahjie, en dan finally vir ons gesit in die Quran. Okay? That was in our time, guys. That was a big thing in the city. As die persoon in die Quran gaan, almal het geweet, because almal kry 'n pakkie lekkertjies as hulle nou in die Quran gaan. En basically, when we used to baca the groot surah, Alif in the Ba in Ta. It was when we recollect into this journey, we come to realize that our natural sound modulations, also sound skills, also the way also huroofs moet geseer het al, tyd het al, you know, we were already aligned onto our frequency. Okay, ons het geweet wat is 'n lam, 'n kaf, 'n ain, 'n ghain, 'n gho, 'n ha, 'n tha, 'n ta. Ons het geweet wat dit is because ons het dit gevoel, broers. We knew these things, and it was like, and we saw our sister, our brother, our friends at the age of 3, 4 years old. As jy al klaar, die goedetjies, ek slat jou lam. Ek gaan vir jou gooi met 'n ein. It's things that we as a community in Cape Town, South Africa, we yani aligned and we comfortably recognized those sounds. Okay, those are the organic sounds that the human vocal mechanisms has been created upon, right? Each thing has a perfect landing in terms of the sound, because it is only sound that makes you listen to the sound of your heart, of your mind. Okay, that's where you get a sound heart, and that's where you get a sound mind. Right? Everything, in your understanding of life, it is generated through sound, whether it is a word or whether it is a voice that is calling you, or whether it is a music instrument, but it's all got to do with sound, and each sound has a rhythm, and each rhythm serves a purpose. Nothing was created for void purposes. The most authentic word of Allah is sound. Okay, now a child, a baby, has the most authentic sounds, and as you watch that child grow, you will see that she cannot say the full word, she cannot say the full letter. She by herself already has a language which is sound, that we as humans that are adults does not understand, but she relates to the natural laws that governs the sound. Okay, she is not contaminated in her sound space. She knows when she say certain voices, when she says certain sounds. She knows what she's saying because that is how that is how her conscious, that is how her universe allows her to acknowledge what she understands as a affirmative or a negative. Okay. When you want to kiss her, why do you as an adult say bah for daddy, bah? Why the bah? Why did the bah come out there? Why did you as an adult tell your child bah for mommy? Okay, why did you say to that child say ta? No, waar kom die bah en die ta vandaan? Who told you people these things? In the conscious world, okay, the alif, the ba and the ta has purpose. Ons het hy geleer in die surats, alif, ba, ta. Our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam had taught us that every harf has a purpose and a meaning. Okay. Now, even when you leave the world of language, if you go into the next level of comprehension, okay, you're going to have to leave all the languages that you ever knew, because those were just files that was loaded onto you, that was created by human beings, not Allah. Okay, your only sound space, your only sound effect at the stage when you get back to where you came from is to recapture the age when you could not speak as you. Okay, then you're going to have to understand, what does ba mean? What does stars vibration mean? What is the meaning of jim? There's a meaning. God doesn't make anything without a meaning. It holds a meaning inside. What's the meaning of ha? Ha has a meaning. Okay, every word that Allah has created is composed of one or two or three sounds. Okay, alif, lam, mim. It has three sounds, but in that it has three letters. Sorry, but alif has three sounds. A, la, fa. Alif. It has three sounds inside of it. Okay, lam has two sounds in it. It has the lam and the mim inside of it. You're not going to detect that if you don't feel it, because your inner sound box, okay, where your blood box is, that should activate it, that should know it. Like a child, the child not going to say fa, if, not going to say fa easily. Going to first say pa, okay? She's going to say pia, she's not going to say fia, okay? Because she has not yet matured in her vocal senses and in her mind, people, in order to reach that note, okay? Similarly, the ra is one of the strongest letters in the vocal chorus of the human symphony. Now, that also, it takes time for a child to mature, okay? Similarly, to absorb that currency, sound is modeled on the basis of currency, okay? Currency is your power. Now, your voice is your exclusive and sound power in wherever you're going to be, okay? Because that gives you the adjustment of your frequency and your latitude, I will call it, okay? That will determine your aptitude, right? Look, I'm putting you onto a wave of thought that is going to be how you have to perceive Jannah, okay? Because you have no, jy gaan nie 'n mond hê in die Jannah nie, jy gaan nie hê 'n brein in die Jannah nie. You're only going to be pure conscious, okay? Pure innocent conscious, right? Now, most of us, we cannot go to this assembly because our sound alignment has been tampered with when we lost yani alif ba ta a I u, alif dapen an, alif tetus un. We lost that frequency, whilst everything is only modeled in the universe on 3 sounds: a, I, and u. You can take it throughout any vowels. It has to have one of that 3 vibrations. Okay? That will now attest to your understanding of the Quran, to understand in which civilization are you currently stuck in. Okay? Quraa, وَلَقَدْ أَهْلَكْنَا الْقُرَى. Quraa and Quran is the same word, it's just an. The an, okay? The man, the an, right? The an is added at the end because that's the alif and the noon, right? An means the present, right? Now, when you take Quraa and you add an to it, it becomes Quran, okay? When you take the word Iqra, it is also coming from the Quran. But you and I have to establish in which civilization, Qarya, are we currently, presently finding ourselves in. Are we in the past? Are we in a timeline, or conscious or unconscious or past timeline, where we are still reading the book in a past civilization, a past stage of our linear time, or are we reading it in the time that is in our present time and age of our maturity? Okay. Now, the person that reads it today and understands what Allah tells him today, he's present. Okay. He's not living in another country. He's not living in another city. He's not living in another empire. He's living where he found his mother. He's not living where he found the dead. Okay? The past civilizations are the civilizations that was deconstructed. It was dismantled. It was no longer, it was compatible to the sound modulations that was reaching the new incoming civilization. Okay? So, throughout civilization, the Quran was always revealed to the human family. Okay? Every civilization had it, and everyone attempted to re-script the narrative according to the language of that time, but they couldn't change the actual rhythm, the neurological rhythms of that Quran, because everything was still based on the a, I, and u. Okay? The different qira'ats, it came because of the different altitudes and aptitudes of that specific time and village, the Qarya, that it was understanding that level of sound frequency at the time that they found themselves. Okay, that is how language comes into our lives. That is how we create new languages, and new and old languages dies off because of the sound that impacts onto the collective conscious. Okay, so when you go through a new modulation, as what your children are now going, we as a past civilization pre-COVID, we wrote with our hands. Okay, the sounds was made to us through a human being. It wasn't done through a digital screen. Now, the new generations since 2000, they are finding the sounds from another source. Okay, they're getting the sounds from a a bionic source, not from the human source itself. That's why you'll see they buying and selling voices now because of the sound, right? Even the children, hulle gaan nie meer kan sound like soos hy van die Kaap is, hy sound soos hy van Amerika is as hy praat of van Europe is, because hy was influenced op 'n different sound level. Okay, that sound impacts your neurological order. That is why you'll find that the corporations are like using neural links to impact on the human psyche, okay, so that they can keep that human being in the chamber of how they must follow a certain way of lifestyles, right? When it comes to our soul tribes, the basis, the basics that we learned as a tribe in the city, where our forefathers and our great ancestors came from, ons het net geconcentreerd op die klein suratjies. Okay? Ons was nie allemaal gafies en hele Quraantjies gebadjas. Nee, guys. Ons het net gebadja. Kulu Allahu ahad, Kulu Allahu ahad, Kul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, Kul a'udhu bi rabbil falak, Tabbat yada idha jaa nasrullahi wal fath, wailul li kulli humazatin. Al die suratjies, about 10 suratjies. Aan die agterste moet ons geken het uit ons kop. Why? Because of sound. It protects your inner child, that sound, if you activate that, it is the sound we heard in Jannah. Okay, don't worry about the meanings in your lives, because each civilization understands it much differently, because the neurological sound modulations are going to impact them, where they're going to see the meaning much different than what we saw the meaning. But more importantly is they are plugged into the authentic sound waves. Okay, that's what was an amana that the forefathers ensured in this tribe, that they imparted to the children. That's why so vroeg soos hulle hulle kinders gestuur het na die Samsoskool toe, na die Khalifatjie toe, en na die ustaze en die muallimas toe, dan leer hy kind nou, nie wag tot na die skool toe gaan nie. In fact, ons het al gehoor, ons ma's en pa's, patsa in ons huise, that sound was just important. Nie van die radio nie, guys. Don't do it just from the radio and from the telephone. Do it from your voice to your children's and your grandchildren's voice. Don't be shy. This is not the time to be shameful. It's the time to lead your children. It's the time to lead your grandchildren. Don't let it come from a foreign sound. The child doesn't know foreign sounds. He knows that which comes from his own. Okay? So when the mother can read it and she's not shy, sy stikkie weg as sy moet salaam maak, sy stikkie weg as sy moet badja nie. Not that it is shameful at this stage, but it's just to realize that how far we fell from the tree. Okay? Now, we are doing our work to circumvent the system for the new children on our modules of our voices of our youngsters. That is already intact, okay? But just you and me, as from our generational point of view, is these kind of modulations and applications that you found authentically in your upbringing, in your childhood, that's blueprints. That's blueprints you have inside of you guys, okay? That's what you're going to have to activate. Nie om te leer om te badja nie, om te leer om te voel, because what sound you feel, okay? If your body, for example, as your body nie gechemicalizes, as your skin nie gechemicalizes, okay, as jy pure is, okay, you are completely 100%, 95% verseker dat jy sit niks chemicals op your skin. You must know this, guys. This is the skin is the greatest organ of your entire body. Whatever goes past the skin is how you become contaminated. So you have to protect it. That's why Allah calls it bashar. It is, it's not jild. Hy is nou net as a mens, wat call a mens nou die, the skin, the lotions you put on here, the lipstick you put on the, if you know it is like coming from a from an organic source, then ahlan wa sahlan, do it. because it's not going to impact your bloodstreams. It's not going to falter your balancing, all right? Because it immediately impacts your blood, right? So that's why we always clean our hands before we eat, because we're always concerned about what comes onto the skin of the greatest asset that you have, and that is your body. That is where the hair that is on your body, that is your antennas. That is where your frequency of sound is landed. That is where everything, like when you get a skrik of as iets hoor, dan gaan staan jou hare op jou vingers of sovoorts behind, because that is the impact that frequency has on your skin, and from your skin it vibrates through your neurological and your nervous systems, you see. Now, that is how you have to realize that you can't get to the next stage of the evolution. You can't get out of this so-called prison, whatever you want to call it, unless you have aligned and adhered and conformed with your natural order as you came into this earth. Okay, that will assess your neurological aptitudes. Dan gaan julle kan sien wie is Allah. Julle gaan weet waar julle kom vandaan, julle gaan weet want julle gaan, and most importantly, julle gaan nie bang wees. There's not going to be fear, because a kind fear nie death. A kind doesn't know death, because the child lives in the natural universe where his mother had born him. He doesn't know the things that we as the bigger, older generation has to inculcate into that child to make him understand the opposite of what he knew when he was innocent, you see. So that is at this moment, as the civilization is now in orbit, it is now in the markup, it is now in the Moj, okay? That is the new, you have to upgrade and to you have to make islah, you have to repair your broken sound notes. That is that's your original vibrations, that's your original, that's how you feel basically, that's how you know that, okay, this person you're seeing now, why do you feel him? Because you are connecting to his source, to his primary source. You are already telepathically synchronizing. That's who human beings are. That's how you live in Jannah. It's how your energy is able to scan and to find its rightful path, right? That's how the system is modeled as you process and as you advance into this age. No piety, people. Purity of heart, authenticity, and love. Just love. Even if the person hates you, love him. He doesn't need to know, but sing out love. Don't sing the same. Don't sing hate. Don't sing things that is going to reflect onto you, because there's no need to hate, because you can only but hate yourself. Okay? So inshallah, with this beautiful blessed month of Rabi', may you find that beautiful choruses of the great mothers that brought the salawat, those sounds. You must feel it, people, because it was planted by the great ancestors since the time of Nabi Adam, since the time of the birth of the Muhammad age. They knew about it, but it's us that had opted for something new, something modern, and therefore these seasons are irrelevant because we cannot feel her presence. All right. May Allah Ta'ala guide you all in sadhan that's going, and grant barakat to each and every one. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
يا مصطفى كل شيء لله يا نورا من نور الله يا مصطفى